order. This is our regular meeting of January 28th, 2014. This morning present from the committee is Vice Chairman Couch.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. Members, Ms. Baisa.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, Ms. Cravello.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, Ms. Cochran.
Aloha. Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, Mr. White.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning, and Mr. Guzman.
Good morning, Chair.
Good morning. The chair excuses Mr. Carroll and Mr. Victorino from today's proceedings. Members, we have one item that has been agendized. That is agenda number policy to interrupt the proceedings of this meeting. Please turn off your cell phones, anything that will disturb this meeting. Again, we shall maintain decorum at all times. We shall maintain civility toward each other at all times. Because this is a very important issue, the chair thought of modifying the length of testimony, because I can tell you there is just as much or maybe more waiting on Molokai to share their thoughts and views with the committee also. The chair is in consideration. There is no final determination, but after further discussions with appropriate leadership of this council, we will make a determination whether or not we shall go to Molokai for a face-to-face meeting with Molokaians to receive their comment face-to-face. Okay, stating that that is the current status. The chair will also state that I am aware that there was posted on the Facebook amendments to the proposed bill that we have listed for the agenda this morning. As I talked to Ms. Cochran prior to the posting, I prefer that we keep our comments to the bill that we decided to post. You can recommend any amendments you wish to, revisions, deletions. The committee is open to all comments regarding the bill that was introduced. Other than that, the chair has no further directions at this time for the committee or our residents for testimony. Any questions to the chair from the committee on how we to proceed? Okay, having none, as we call up our people to testify, if you are representing an organization, we ask that you share that information with us, please. And the chair is also going to ask for, if you're possible, to please share your address with the committee also. You have 3 minutes. We are going to use the lighting system to assist you with your time. When the yellow light goes on, that means you have 30 seconds remaining. And I ask you to start concluding your remarks. When the red light goes on and the beeper goes off, your 3 minutes are up. You may request the chair for additional time to conclude, no longer than 1 minute. But I caution you now, please, we have a lot of people that would like to share a lot of things, so I would prefer not to have that extra minute. That is the chair's request. Stating that, we shall move to testimony. The first person that we have that has signed up for testimony is Doug McClure. Following Mr. McClure, it shall be Sharon Zalsos.
Thanks, Chairman. Chairman and the County Council. I've been a farmer on Maui for 50 years. And I remember when we grew almost all of our food that we ate. We had multiple chicken farms 2 dairies, multiple feedlots, a lot of pig farmers, and every big ranch had a slaughterhouse. I am opposed to this bill because it's local. It's anti-local ag. And that's a problem. We used to feed all of our animals off the what we have. Sure, we farmers made mistakes, but that's the way you learn. We learned that you can't do conservation the way you used to, we used to, and you can't use dangerous pesticides. We have to take care of the people, our people, and our neighbors. I object to this bill because at the same time the Department of Health is stopping funding for the conservation position, and we're trying to move the responsibility from the feds, the state of Hawaii, to local farmers and the government. We used to have a local pesticide trainer and inspector on Maui, and used to have more people locally with the Department of Ag. Now they are gone. No wonder kids don't want to get into farming. It's not only hard work, but it's not always profitable, and you have to fight like hell on the bills like this. And that's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClure. Members, any questions for the testifier on clarification of his testimony?
Yes, Chair.
Ms. Cochran?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. McClure, nice to see you.
Nice
We're
to see you.
So I'm just wanting a little bit more clarification, as in your sentence, anti-local agriculture, and exactly what is it you're referring to as in local?
We used to supply all of our food on Maui, and now we import 82% of it. I served on the Board of Ag for many years, and that's what I'm referring to.
So the big box stores can sell produce a lot cheaper than we can provide it ourselves today.
And we import food from Mexico, Chile, the mainland. Salinas Valley irrigates all of their produce with wastewater. So that's what I'm saying.
One more, Chair.
Is it on the same question?
No, it's a different.
Okay, as long as it's
sentence
part
of
of the
this.
testimony that he
It is.
provided.
It is, Chair. Thank you. And also in regards to what we used to have as in pesticide trainer and inspectors, you're
Yeah.
saying we no longer have this?
No. We don't have a trainer, and we cut our inspectors by 50%.
Okay. And, all right, that's important information. Thank you, Mr. McClure.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the gentleman on testimony he provided? Mr. McClure, thank you very much for your presence this morning. We'll bring up Ms. Zalsos, and then we'll check with our district offices.
Aloha, Chair Okama.
Good morning.
Ladies and gentlemen of the council, good morning. First of all, I would like to express my gratitude for this opportunity. As you know, freedom to give one's testimony is not always something that every person on this earth will ever experience. As a United States Air Force veteran, I cherish that very much about this country. My name is Sharon Zalsos, and I am here on my own behalf. After reading the proposed bill, I realized that this is almost the exact replica of Kauai's Bill 2491. Of course, Kauai County was replaced by Maui County. The bill is currently in litigation. It is my understanding that Kauai's mayor had the foresight to see that the bill would not stand by itself, that it would be open to lawsuits. So I urge this council to please consider that. Please take that to consideration. I fully support Maui's agriculture. I am in support of every single farmer from this island, Molokai, Lanai. I am in support of all of the 770 HCNS farmers, and I'm in full support of all of the 500 workers of Monsanto. I buy my produce every Saturday morning from our Maui swap meet. I make sure that I buy Maui first, and I highly encourage that everyone else do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alsos. Members, any questions for the testifier? Having that, Ms. Alsos, thank you for being here. Ms. Lono, Hana office, is there anyone wishing to provide testimony?
Good morning, Chair. This is Dawn Lono at the HANA office, and I have no one waiting to testify at this time.
Thank you. Lanai, Ms. Fernandez, anyone wishing to provide testimony?
Good morning, Chair. This is Denise Fernandez on Lanai, and there is no one waiting to testify.
Okay, thank you very much. Molokai, Tina, Ella, do we have people wishing to testify?
Good morning, Chair. This is Ella Alcon on Molokai, and the first testifier is Lynn Decoit.
Okay, thank you. We'll ask Ms. Decoit to share her testimony with us, please.
Aloha, Honorable Committee Chair Hokama, Vice Chair Couch, and respected council members. My name is Lynn Decoit, and I am a third-generation Hawaiian homestead farmer on Molokai, and I am Keikioka Aina. I'd like to start my testimony by saying, what is government coming to? I believe in freedom of speech, but please make sure you know what you're talking about. The proposed pesticide GMO bill introduced by Council Member Cochran is anti-ag bill that unfairly targets farmers and businesses in Maui County. The bill is dangerous to the people of Maui County. It is not enforceable by the county at this time, and taxpayer monies would be required to establish this bill, which is redundant to the regulations already set forth by the federal and state governments. One part of the proposed bill, the environmental impact and public safety studies that will need to be performed for each of the restricted use pesticides, should already tell the council that the law is an attempt to ban the ag in the state of Hawaii. There is a reason that those pesticides are restricted use, and that is that those studies have already been undertaken long before the products became commercially available. Why are these studies needed since they've already been done and the information from them available is public knowledge? The second part of this bill I'd like to focus on is the underlying fact that the bill is an attempt to ban the use of GMO crops in Maui County. So we ban GMO, but we import it. What is the difference? I tell you, this will lose over 65% of Molokai's workforce and food production that could be grown here. We will send more people to the unemployment line. Is that what we want? And farmers like myself will stop farming? That much less food will be grown in the state of Hawaii. My family-owned sweet potato farm is the biggest supplier of sweet potatoes in the state of Hawaii. I too will look at closing my doors. You've tied our hands, feet, and basically thrown away the keys. If bills were passed on by who screamed the loudest and who could threaten politicians, then maybe this is what people will have to resort to get their point across. We are not like that. We're simple farmers doing great agricultural practices, working side by side with GMO growers, supporting one another. How dare you judge us because you cannot find nothing wrong with GMO? Now farmers like myself will have to suffer for the decision you make based on people's accusations and not facts. Cost of food will go up, major supply and demand issues, no food and no sustainability for Hawaii. Only the rich will afford food. What happens in the natural disaster? This will lead to famine. All at the hands of decision coming from people who have no incline about farming and the repercussions of this bill. The question is, what is the alternative? You are GMO. Genetics at its best. The mixing of two genes create another living being. They can't get sick, which is why we give them immunizations at a young, early age. Should we ban immunization also?
3 minutes.
Common sense. Will you feed the people who choose not to be farmers, and what is your solution? Are the laws that are in place not stiff enough? Aren't the farmers of today already paying and making sacrifices? Farming is not an easy job, and it clearly shows when government does not support agriculture. Many anti-GMO movements are hypocrites. They buy GMOs knowingly, and yet they oppose it. Why don't they grow their own food? But they want us to grow it for them and tell us how to grow it. I said they don't need it. The late Senator Inouye once said, your actions speak louder than your words. If this is what this bill, then let them pay with their tax-paying dollars, not mine. I don't have a problem eating GMO. I welcome it, and so does my family. Let the movement make a commitment to the county. Make them tell you how they plan to supply our county and state with food that we grow without using chemicals. Let's not forget that food safety will also be regulated, and you cannot be concocting your own fertilizer
4 minutes.
or compost to call that natural. That also needs to be tested.
Mr. Coit,
Also be
Mr. Coit,
not properly handled. What government will be regulating that?
Mr.
County
Coit,
needs
you need
prepare.
to
This will build.
terminate your testimony, please. We have more than 4
I can
minutes.
wrap up in 30 seconds.
No,
Bill will
we gave you
build
4
as
minutes,
safety
Mr.
of the
Coit.
people of Maui County, since it's never been proven that they're in danger. If passed, this bill will ultimately hurt the farmers and business of Maui County. I speak for myself and my family, and I do not speak for Molokai, as some say they do. Councilmen and women, don't you be threatened and fall victim to people that threaten your positions. Stand up and do what is right. Sincerely, Lindsay Coit, Molokai Homestead Farmer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Coit. Questions for the testifier members? Okay, thank you, Mr. Coit. Before we ask the second Molokai testifier, we're going to adjust it. We're going to notify you at the 2.5 minute mark once you have 30 seconds to conclude your original 3 minutes. And then we're going to notify you of your 3 minute mark. It is only fair that everyone is given the same amount of time. And therefore, if you choose to continue speaking after your maximum is allowed, I'm either going to pound this meeting into recess and wait till we can all understand what is the rules before we restart the meeting. Because I won't have this committee lose control of this meeting. Any question, members? Oh, and please, all testimony is to be directed to the chair and not the committee members or the audience. Molokai, who's your next testifier, please?
The next testifier is Kalani Ua Riti.
Okay, I have our next person to please share his testimony.
Okay, aloha, my name is Ua Riti. Born, raised in Gadam, Molokai. Hopefully not soon, and hopefully not of cancer. But yeah, aloha everybody. I just think ask why these multi-billion-dollar corporations gotta be around our schools? Why they gotta be testing the pesticides around our schools and around homes? Can they do it somewhere else? Okay, they're gonna tell you why they're doing this, because jobs, they're gonna provide jobs, okay? Some people can come up here and tell you science is why they're doing this, why they're around our schools and around our homes, okay? Some people can tell you that they're feeding the world, and that's why they're around schools and homes, okay? That's not why they're around schools and homes. They're around because they're greedy, okay? It's not about the workers here, this is not about nobody here, this is about CEOs that's 3,000 miles away in the boardroom looking at Molokai like on a chart and numbers. That's all it is, Molokai, to them. They're looking at their charts and they're looking at their pocket books, okay? They want to make $10 million instead of $1 million. They want to have 5 houses instead of 1 house, okay? That's why they're spraying poisons around our schools and around people's houses. They're greedy. They shouldn't have come up above the highway. They should have stayed south where nobody stayed, the wind blowing in that direction. I don't think we would have had this much, that kind of bang, heads bang. But no, they had to push the issue. They had to come around schools. They had to come around houses. So I think it's greed. I think these CEOs, they're like 5 cars instead of 1, 10 mistresses instead of just 1. You know what I mean? And if you know what happens when you have these companies, they're not doing production-based agriculture, but they're doing research-based agriculture, which means they spray more pesticides than the production-based guys. So why? Why? You look at Kauai, and then you're going to know what happens, you know. That's all the guys who don't work for a company, what it's like living around these fields, you know. Ask all the doctors who came to testify about their experiences with pesticide exposure in these communities around the fields. Ask the scientists who came and testified about all these pesticides and the side effects that they cause. You line them up: cancer, diabetes, what's going on, you fat, obesity. All these line up with those pesticides that they spray. So if you get cancer, you know, it shouldn't surprise you. You know,
2.5 minutes.
There's tons of toxic chemicals that cause cancer near you. Of course, you're gonna get cancer. You know, so it's all about greed, bro. And I don't think it's right for us to put our kids at risk for these people's greed. Hey, you like do your science things, you like test, you like spray, go spray someplace when nobody around. And I think that's a fair compromise. So yeah, thank you and aloha.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions for the gentleman's testimony for clarification? Having none, thank you very much for your comments. We'll come back to the chamber. Darren Strand, and he shall be followed by Donna Bohe.
Good morning, Chair Hokama and committee members. I am Darren Strand, and I'm here on behalf of Maui Gold Pineapple Company. I would like to discuss a handful of the impacts from this bill and a few of the false assumptions on which it is based, and specifically how it will negatively impact our company, our product, and our employees. This bill assumes that a farm like ours and the employees of Maui Gold cannot use pesticides in a safe manner with respect to the land that we are farming, our neighbors, and the food we produce. In the 8 years that I've been manager in the pineapple operations on Maui, we've never had a case where pesticides have drifted off-site of the application or had residues on our harvested product. This is a fact. This is the truth, not a general statement in a letter to the editor, not a post on my Facebook page, but this is the truth because we take what we do very seriously and we're held accountable by the agencies that regulate us and the retail customers that buy our product. Our on-farm practices are always compliant and are always more stringent than what is required by state and federal law. Ellie's bill is a solution without a problem. This is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Maui Gold Pineapple Company is farming over 1,000 acres in Haile Maile corridor below Makawao. We have 82 employees, almost all of whom were employees of Maui Pineapple Company that shut its operations and laid off the last 225 employees of December 2009. Maui Gold has just finished our 4th year of operations, and while we've had success at several levels, I'm always reminded of the situations that make Maui a hard place to run an agricultural business. We pay 3 times as much for water as our competitors on Oahu. Our fuel costs are much higher. Our material costs are higher. A kilowatt is much more expensive on Maui than it is on Oahu. And then on top of that, we have to ship our product to the major marketplace and the population on Oahu. The punitive nature of this bill creates an additional set of costly regulations for our operations. The no-crop buffer zones around neighboring properties eliminates between 15 and 20% of our production acreage. So along with all of the previously listed disadvantages, now we will need to try to operate our business with 20% less product, 20% less revenue. I don't think that's possible. Again, there is not drift off-site. Our neighbors are not complaining, and this bill is again a solution looking for a problem. Several times since we've refocused pineapple production into Hilo Maile, I've sent letters and gone door to door to our neighbors. I've offered every resident the opportunity to be part of our neighbor notification program. Several of them have accepted this offer, and we communicate with them about our activities near their properties. Mostly our neighbors are concerned about noise and dust, and we schedule our operations to meet their requests. For example, we don't start tractor operations below Makawao Town until after 7:30 at the request of one of our neighbors. We do soil preparation when conditions allow for minimal dust. And we follow a conservation plan that keeps our soil where we need it, on our farm. Many of our neighbors are concerned about the products that we are spraying, and we create a schedule with them that works for both of us. In my opinion, at this time, Maui Gold has a cooperative relationship with our neighbors. The notification requirements of this bill make our current system inadequate and put us in an antagonistic position with our neighbors. Compliance with the notification requirements that are in the language is so tedious that they would require us to notify all of the requesting neighbors within 1,500 feet of our property. Can I continue for a short while?
Yeah, you got 30 seconds left, Mr.
Okay.
Strand.
Our estimate that this would be nearly 300 parties.
Turn it off, please, Carl. Thank you.
Our estimate is that this would be nearly 300 parties, but it would be devoid of any cooperative communication. Again, our neighbors are not complaining about our current system, and this is a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Actually, I believe that our nearest neighbors will be unhappy with the new mandatory notification system and would prefer the current voluntary system that is in place.
4 minutes.
To conclude, it is important for you to know that Maui Gold Pineapple Company has had success in our transition from a large commodity-style plantation to a smaller farm focusing on a higher quality product, better service, and a better position in the marketplace. I'm not exaggerating to state that this bill puts our operation at risk and makes it hard for me to imagine continued success. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Strand. Any questions for the gentleman on testimony provided? Mr. Couch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Strand, thank you for being here. Do you have that in writing? It looks like you're reading off something in writing.
Yeah.
Can you
some of it's handwritten, scribbled.
Can you submit that at a later time?
Yes, I can.
Please. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions for the testifier members? Okay. Having none, thank you very much for your testimony. Donna Bohe, Bougghey. Bowie, thank you. Sorry.
Aloha, good morning. My name is
morning.
Donna Bowie. I represent South Maui. I was raised in Kihei for almost 30 years. I wanted to share some thoughts and concerns about Monsanto to you. Sometimes Monsanto makes me want to leave Maui, but why should I leave just because the state decided that it would be okay to use us residents as test pilots for their unnatural food products, GMO creations? To not know what they are spraying, testing at all hours of the night here on Maui worries me and obviously worries others who live here. The Monsanto employees wear suits when they spray the fields, but where are our suits and masks to protect us when they do so? They call themselves farmers, but farmers don't wear suits. How come Maui residents aren't informed of what types of viruses they are spraying, testing, and what pesticides they launch into the same air we breathe every time they do it? What is going on behind those closed-off sheds, behind the barbed-wired fences? We all have the right to know. I also believe science experiments should be done inside. How is open-air testing safe? Where is the data on that? What happens to the soil when they test a pesticide? Does it just sit there for weeks on dry days? Or do they rely on the rains to clean their fields? Where does all that end up? These are all questions that we should have answers to. The point I'm trying to make is that by the time Monsanto are done, there will be no country to move to, no good soil, and no more natural anything. Look at the history of how they contaminated other states like Alabama. They are still dealing with PCB contamination spills there. For many years now, they have been contaminating our rivers, streams, and our oceans every time it rains, every second the wind blows. If we stand up now and kick them out, it will end. If we don't, then it is over. They will win, and that is that. The reality is that we are inadvertently in a science experiment by default, just by living here, and that is not right. Soon no one will have a choice because the Aina will be destroyed by these biotech companies. All I know is that we can't just continue to participate and watch the destruction of these beautiful islands. We have Monsanto headquarters labs plus chemical testing fields near our schools and neighborhoods. In fact, I'm a mom who has a child currently going to a school in Kihei. What are the long-term effects of them testing who knows what? If we know what Monsanto is doing, what chemicals they are testing, how much as far as quantity is being tested, then all that info can help us determine, or decide if our kids and environment is safe for the future. I just went to Kauai with my family for a few days. We visited Waimea, the west side of Kauai, that has nothing but acres.
Continue to submit written testimony.
Yep.
That the committee will leave it open to continue to receive open testimony. So if you have it written, you can submit it and we'll accept it.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry so long, everybody.
No
Please pass
apologies
this bill. It
necessary.
means a lot to us.
Any questions for the lady on what she presented in testimony, members? Having none, thank you very much for your testimony this morning. We'll go with Don Gerber, and then we'll check with our district offices after Don Gerber. Excuse me, Gerbig.
Sorry, I'm so late.
No problem.
Mr. Chairman, committee members, my name is Don Gerbig. I'm a former sugar worker, been in the chemical business, been in the environmental regulation business for AMFAC, and have a little bit of interest in this. I'm here as on behalf of myself. I'm going to just summarize in paragraphs. First, the lack of need of this ordinance. There's no factual scientific evidence presented for the need of this ordinance, only innuendos and fear-mongering. If there are concerns about pesticides, then a study of all pesticides used should be made, not just those used by agriculture. This ordinance will not provide complete information since most pesticide uses, such as pest control operators, homeowners, county, state government uses, are not included. How can you have a study of pesticide uses when you only consider half the pesticides used? The ordinance gives criminals the opportunity to vandalize crops. The ordinance requires a reporting of the exact location of GMO crops grown, but fails to provide any justification for the need for this information. It's well known that anti-GMO vandals on the Big Island in Hawaii have destroyed GMO crops. Wouldn't this be an advantage to the vandals to destroy more GMO crops? There is no scientific evidence for the basis of pesticide application buffer zone. The ordinance requires buffer zones of crop-free areas of 100 to 500 feet of private farmland property. They are not based on any scientific evidence or study. This is a taking of the farmer's land. Will the county pay the farmer for these buffer zone losses in production? Another thing is overburden of record keeping on the pre-applications before. The ordinance requires a pesticide applier or farmer under the good neighbor courtesy notice to provide all requesting neighbors within 1,500 feet of the property line that the notice is to include the application, time, date, wind direction, field, and all this. Can you imagine the number of farmers or the notices a farmer must provide if the farm borders a subdivision, or if the application date has to be rescheduled because of wind or rain? And more overburdens in record keeping after application, post-application. The farmers must submit a county report every 7 days furnishing data on each pesticide application for all pesticides used.
2.5 minutes.
Thank you. Ordinance unfairly penalizes the farmers and leaves the non-agricultural operations free and clear. The unknown costs of these proposed pesticide data studies mentioned in the ordinance. There's no cost and there's no expertise, as I see it. If we're going to do a study, it should be done by like UH or Department of Agriculture or somebody like that. Please consider seriously the economic harm and negative impact of this ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gerbig. Members, any questions for the testify, please. Mr. Couch?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Gerbig. Again, we'd like to get a copy of your testimony in writing, if you have.
Yeah, hold on one second, please, Mr. Gerbig.
I've submitted a copy.
Okay, thank you.
It's in, yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Gerbig? Thank you very much for being here this morning. We'll go to HANA office. Ms. Lono, anyone interested in sharing testimony?
The HANA office has no one waiting to testify, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Fernandez, anyone on Lanai?
There is no one waiting to testify on Lanai.
Thank you. Ms. Alcon, Molokai, please.
The next testifier is Scott Adams.
Okay, thank you.
Alo Kaua, Delina, alo Aina. My name is Kauhani Adams. I'm a third generation Hawaiian homesteader and born and raised over here. But I've been trained in Western agricultural practices all my life. I was vice president of Future Farmers of America. I got a 4-year degree in horticulture. And after I learned all that, I realized that Western type of agriculture, agribusiness, is not good for the land and the people. But put the science on the side. Yeah, all the science on the side. This is about being good neighbors. Yeah, letting your neighbor what's going on, letting your neighbor know what's going on upwind from him. That's what it's about. It's about having one choice to know what's affecting my children. I have 5 girls, one of them autistic. I don't know if that's from all your chemicals that they're spraying out there, but I know that 2,4-D and stuff like that is very, very harmful to the environment. And being that we're the apex predator in the food chain, everything going to end up in us. So anyway, put the science on the side. I just say be good neighbors. When I burn fire, I ask my neighbors, that I'm burning fire. If it's corner wind or going to blow into the house, I know burn fire. So it's just about being good neighbors and letting everybody know what they're doing. Mahalo.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Any questions for the gentleman? Having none, thank you for being here. Next, Molokai.
The next testifier is Hano Naehu.
Thank you.
My name is Hano Naehu. Born and raised on the island of Molokai. I'd just like to remind all the workers that we don't have a problem with you guys. We never had. I'm going to read you something. It might take me a little bit over 3 minutes, but I know Lindy Quaid went over. So I'm going to try to read fast. Is chemical agriculture good for an island like us? A young local Hawaiian man, a paramedic in his early 30s, walks toward the microphone at a Maui County Council meeting on Bill 2491. Bill 2491 is a proposed law that makes the chemical agriculture companies on the island let the community know when they are spraying, what they are spraying, and creates a 500-foot buffer around any fields that are next to residences and schools. He approaches the microphone with his cap pulled down and in obvious sadness when he says, "My name is Chad Pa. Sorry if I'm emotional, but this really hits home for me. I speak in on behalf of my girlfriend and my unborn son. I'm going to share with you guys a story of what's been going on with me." He sobs and pulls his cap a little lower and continues. "My son has a condition called gastrothesis, and basically means his stomach will be on the outside when he is born. So I had to fly my girlfriend up to Arizona where they can perform the surgery, and I've been working here without them for 2 months. I've been doing my research about what causes this, and I came across 4 other friends of mine who have the same condition. It breaks my heart that we have to go through this, because I don't come here to point fingers. I don't come here to fight. I don't want to segregate anybody. But something is wrong with this. There is too many coincidences." He adjusts himself in his seat as he fights back tears and says, "Sorry, I'm just trying to read this. Gastroenteritis has been more commonly found in the islands of Hawaii, and there have been several studies of scientists linking gastroenteritis to the chemical atrazine. This chemical is sprayed here more than any other place on the planet. Molokai. This is an example of what's been happening on the islands of Hawaii because of exposure to chemical agriculture. Though chemical agriculture is beneficial in making food cheap and providing some jobs, unfortunately those happy benefits do not outweigh the harmful effects of chronic diseases linked to diet and exposure, non-sustainable farming practices, and mistrust of a company who is responsible for farmer indebtedness that has led to suicide. Molokai has become a chemical testing site for some of the largest chemical industrial agriculture companies on the planet. And the concern is how will all that pesticide, herbicide, and insecticide have on our island and community. The known negative effects of Monsanto's Roundup on human health and the environment have been firmly established by numerous scientific studies and large-scale investigations, with scientists even linking the best-selling herbicide to conditions like infertility, cancer, all due to its genotoxic, DNA-damaging nature. The community of Molokai's concern has always been the pesticide use and the effects of it. Everyone speaking on behalf of the company has always said there is nothing wrong with what they are doing and everything is safe. But the concern is I have family that works for these companies and vouch with their lives that they wouldn't be doing this work if they weren't sure that it was safe. But a global medicine issue stated agricultural chemicals are used heavily in farming to control pests. And while all pesticides can harm humans, insecticides and herbicides cause the most human poisoning. Pesticides pose an even higher risk to children than to adults. Due to a combination of play behavior in and around fields, take-home residues from family members, residents in proximity to farmland, and even by direct agricultural work, children may be subject to substantial long-term pesticide exposure and harm. There are a number of cornfield workers who say, I come in direct contact with these pesticides and see no ill effects from it. What they do not understand is that these types of chemicals are chronic poisons, which means it slowly shuts everything down. These types of pesticides like Roundup are the #1 choice of suicide in South America and Asia. Farming on lands with the highest evaporation rates in the state, using over 4.5 million gallons per day from an island single-source aquifer on inedible crops.
Okay, you're going to need to conclude your testimony. You can have a sentence. You cannot maintain decorum in here. We're going to change the rules.
Hey, thank you. I'll be submitting this and many more stuff into the dispatch. But Molokai, we got to be smart. Cannot poison our place. That's like killing ourselves.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions for the gentleman that shared his testimony? Okay, thank you very much for your comments. Next testifier, Molokai. Ms. Elkan, you can have
Testifier is Tanya Naehu.
Okay, thank you.
Aloha, my name is Tanya Marie Mailelani Naehu. I am a Hawaiian woman born and raised in Hawaii who wears many hats. As a kumu, a wife, a sister, a daughter, an artist, a hula dancer, and a mother of 3 beautiful keiki. Today I'm here as a mother that is concerned about the future of her babies. My 2 older children attend school in the Kuala Pu'u and Ho'olehua areas of Molokai. These ahupua'a have been the center of Molokai's ever-changing agricultural industry, from sugar to pineapple to coffee, and now bioengineering of corn seeds and most recently soy. The amount and types of pesticides used in these fields have me worried every day that I send my keiki off to school. I keep telling myself, pesticide, herbicide, insecticide, homicide, suicide. They all end with the same suffix. C-I-D-E, side. So as a Kumu, I was inclined to look it up, and here it is. Side, C-I-D-E, combining form, means denoting a person or substance that kills, as in the term insecticide. Second definition, denoting an act of killing, as in the term homicide. My heart began to race as my heart began to race as these thoughts went through my head upon this finding. First, am I a good mother for sending my babies to this death zone every day? Why isn't the DOE addressing this if the responsibility is not to only educate our keiki but create a safe and nurturing environment? How can everyone for this that is pro this type of agriculture ignore the fact that poison is being used in ridiculously profuse amounts to test the tolerance of these seeds that will eventually get shipped off to feed the world? Why are they destroying our soil, air, and groundwaters? What will be left for a legacy of this era? I understand that this is a bill to make use and amounts of usage to be more transparent, and I guess that's a start. But I don't think it's enough. Is the price of a few casualties okay as long as we have some kind of economy? How long will we wait before the damage is irreparable? We who are against the concept of bioengineering and genetically modified organisms, for the most part, are not getting any type of money. No type of personal gain.
2.5 minutes.
Just some hope that we can provide a better future for our keiki. Some may argue that these companies help to put food on the table and pay the bills. Why can't we come together and think of another way to build economic and food security for our people rather than putting all of our efforts into these companies who have a reputation of coming into small towns, making big money, and leaving in 10 to 20 years, and only leaving behind a legacy of tainted soils, lost loved ones who may have died of some rare disease or cancer, and a whole bunch of people on unemployment. So I guess this bill is a stepping stone, and I am in support of it if it means that the truth may be revealed eventually. My babies are my life. I would die for them. If it meant that they would be safe from harm. So please hear my prayers and my pleas to ensure a safer future for all of Hawaii's keiki. Mahalo nui me ka ha'aha'a. He kuliana no ka kopono e malama aina. Malama kikahi a me malama aina keiki a mau. Mahalo.
Thank you for your testimony. Members, any questions for the lady that shared her thoughts with the committee? Okay, having none, thank you very much, Molokai, for your testimony. We shall return to the chambers. Brian Ingersham, Igersham. And after this gentleman, it'll be Daryl Tanaka.
Chair Okama,
Good
Council,
morning.
Good morning. My name is Brian Igersheim. I'm employed by the Hali'maili Pineapple Company. I help to oversee the overall health of our plants and our soil, although I'm providing this testimony on behalf of myself. I'm a staunch supporter of both organic farming and sustainable agriculture here on Maui. I know how incredibly important it is to produce the food that we eat and at the same time be good stewards of our land and our oceans and our community. I do want to discuss the following misconceptions about organic and conventional farming and pesticide use. The first misconception is that organic farming is 100% safe for our island, our bees, and our neighbors. And the second misconception is that pesticide use on farms by trained and licensed applicators adhering to state and federal laws are 100% unsafe for our land, our bees, and our community. What is clear is that neither of these broad generalizations about organic and conventional farming are true and accurate. And as an example of this, there's an organic pesticide called pyrethra, and it's derived from an African violet. And it helps to fight or mitigate problems of caterpillar infestation on plants. But it's extremely toxic to bees. And it's available at Home Depot and Lowe's. And that's one example. Another is malathion, which is a non-restricted use pesticide, which which has been linked to leaching into the soil and into the water, groundwater, as well as negative effects, health effects, particularly among children. And this is also available at Home and Home Depot and Lowe's. It can be applied. These products can be applied by anybody at any time on their residential property or small farms without any consideration of the neighbors, the land, the water, or the bees. And I think this is potentially far more harmful than application of a restricted use pesticide by a trained applicator who's under the guidelines of state and federal Department of Agriculture. So to create a new law that limits the opportunity for sustainability in agriculture in our community without further study, to clear up these misconceptions, in my judgment, will do nothing more than promote the increased importation of fresh produce from abroad.
2.5 minutes.
That's going to line our shelves in supermarkets and products that were grown in a manner that this bill opposes. So I just cordially ask this committee to revise the language of this bill and to keep the focus upon the pesticide use and seed production of genetically modified organisms, which I think is the intent of the bill, and to conduct the environmental impact study on the negative effects of intense agricultural activity and pesticide use on our island, and to not pass a law that further inhibits the Maui agriculture community at large without this further study. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Members, any questions for the gentleman on the testimony he has provided this morning? Having none, Mr. Ingersheim, thank you very much. Daryl Tanaka, and after Mr. Tanaka, Autumn Ness, N-E-S-S.
Aloha, Chair, Council members. My name is Daryl Tanaka. I own an orchid nursery in Haiku, and I do use over-the-counter pesticides. Now, the reason I'm here today is because I have a pet peeve for legislation that is run by emotion instead of sensibility and fairness. The stringent requirements in this bill, it makes it so difficult to reasonably farm that it's just outrageous. Now, I don't use restricted use pesticides, but what this bill is, in reality, is an attack on even on general use pesticides, which is an attack on farming. If I cannot spray, I'm out of business. I lose my home. It all depends on what crop you have, what climate you live in, what pests you are faced with. That determines what and when you have to spray. You know, you cannot put something like that in black and white. How are you going to have somebody declare a week ahead of time what they intend to spray when they never go out to the fields to check what pests they have? You know, if I find a pest in my nursery this morning, I'm going to spray this afternoon for that specific pest. I'm not going to spray if there's no pest there because I don't like spraying. It's hard. And it's also very expensive. I'm going to give you one example of the flawness in this bill. My parents. My stepfather, he had a restricted use pesticide license. He gave it up because the requirements to maintain it are very stringent. They're very strict. And it's just really hard to maintain it. So he gave it up. He decided he didn't need it. But the wording in this bill basically is going to punish them because he purchased just over 5 pounds of restricted use pesticides last year. If this bill is passed, for the coming year, because he lives on a 2-acre property, given the current buffer zones, he's not going to be able to spray anything. And that's why I call this bill a harassment bill, because you're punishing people. Why is this an attack on general use pesticides? If this is really about restricted use pesticides, then the term general use pesticide shouldn't even be in here.
I'm sorry, Mr. Tanaka. We're not going to tolerate interruption of testimony, please. So turn off your equipment. This is the last warning from the chair. Mr. Tanaka, we apologize. Please continue your testimony.
Thank you, Chair. Even though the notifications, now it seems reasonable to want an agriculture entity to notify people, especially if they're sensitive to chemicals. By all means, they should be notified. There's no harm in that. But the requirements that how you're going to make them do that is totally unfair. I mean, it goes as far as if you were to call someone and the phone just continued to ring and they didn't pick up.
3 minutes.
Technically, you cannot spray. You know, so it's just totally unreasonable. The only way, Chair, that I can see accomplishing anything is to wipe the slate clean and start out with wording that comes from Maui, not Kauai. Make it sensible, make it fair. Go out to the farmers and sit down with them and hash out the wording. See what works. But like this whole thing, I didn't submit written testimony on purpose, simply because this bill is too flawed. And that is something I adamantly stand against, is flawed legislation that affects people like me who shouldn't be affected. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tanaka, for your comments this morning. Members, questions for Mr. Tanaka on the testimony he has presented? Okay, having none, Mr. Tanaka, thank you very much for being here this morning. What is that? 3. We did in the chamber. 2. Ms. Ness. My apologies if I've mispronounced your last name.
Perfect. I had this really beautiful speech printed out, and I'm just going to wing it, so I apologize. I just changed my mind totally what I want to say. I apologize as I stutter through this. First of all, I hear some of the testimony against this bill today applies that it's anti-ag. But I completely disagree. I and a lot of people here don't want to send any farmers to the unemployment line. If your operation is in compliance with existing laws and you have a good neighbor relationship with the people around you, awesome. If you're a mid-sized farmer producing food for local consumption, then all you need to do is establish some kind of an email network and push send a couple times a week. You know, like that's really all we're asking for in my mind.
Ms. Ness, can you? I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you please identify yourself for the record, please?
Oh yeah, my name's Autumn Ness. I'm speaking as a resident, a registered voter, and a mom.
Thank you.
If you are a large ag business that is using undisclosed experimental pesticides or pesticide cocktails on our island, then you owe it to Maui to disclose what and when you're using and allow us to study it. That's who I am addressing. That's why I think that this bill really matters. I want to share with you my story. I didn't plan on doing this, but to maybe give you a different way of looking at this. I moved to Maui from Japan. I'd been living there for 12 years, very close to Fukushima. I was there when the earthquake and tsunami and the explosion happened. I know what it's like to feel like an experiment. The government was very careful about keeping from us how much radiation we had been exposed to, how much radiation we were eating and drinking and breathing on a daily basis. They went so far as to give the children in our town little glass badges to wear on their neck so that they could collect data about how much they were being exposed to on a daily basis. But that data was not shared with the parents. It was sent to Tokyo University to be studied. They were literally walking experiments, walking guinea pigs. We were told at hospitals that we weren't allowed full body scans to know how much radiation we had been exposed to. We weren't told what or how much radiation was in our food or water. We were just given the tagline that everything's fine, we know what's going on, and there will be no effects on your health. And that was it. They didn't respect us as citizens enough to make our own decisions about how much or what we were ingesting. I lived in that situation for 6 months.
2.5 minutes.
I can't tell you what it does to the human spirit to know that the poison that the food and the air that you are ingesting every day is poisoning you. I got pregnant 6 months after that, and I decided that I didn't want my daughter to be an experiment like I was, so we left. We have an amazing community in Maui that invited us here to have our baby and to heal from this really, can I please have 1 more minute? Sure. From this really traumatic experience. And I moved to Kihei, right downwind from the Monsanto test fields. And I had no idea. You know, and I started talking to people, and people shook their heads about how sorry they felt for me, that I lived next to Fukushima, with all of these unknown toxins coming into my body. And then I realized that the same thing is happening right next to my house in Kihei. And when I tell people in Japan that this is happening to me again, they shake their heads and they feel sorry for me, and it's the same situation. This is the same thing happening again. The chemicals are different, but they're invisible. We have no ways of making our own decisions about where we live, what we eat, what we breathe. All we're asking for is information. That's it. It's simple. The same thing that we do here and shake our heads and feel so sorry for those people in Japan who are living in this invisible poison and all they want is information. We're asking for the same thing. And it's so easy. All you have to do is tell us what's going on and allow us to study it so we can make decisions about our health, for us, for our kids, for our land, and for our oceans. I beg you to please work on this bill. It's a work in progress, but don't throw it out. Let's work together to make it something that we can all use, okay? Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ness. Any questions for the lady on her testimony, members, that she shared with you this morning? Having none, Ms. Ness.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here. We'll go back to our district offices. Hana, is there anyone wishing to provide testimony?
The Hana office has no one waiting to testify, Chair.
Thank you. Ms. Fernandez, anyone on Lanai with testimony?
There is no one waiting to testify on Lanai.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Alkan Molokai?
Our next testifier is Adolph Helm.
Okay, thank you very much.
Aloha, Chairman Hokama and Vice Chair Couch and fellow committee members. Mahalo in providing me the opportunity to testify on PIA-58. My name is Adolph Helm, and born and raised on Molokai, and presently reside in the Holihua Homestead area. I have close to 40 years of agricultural experience in all types of farm practices, and I'm currently the project leader for Mycogen Seeds, an affiliate of Dow AgroSciences. Mycogen Seeds has maintained a seeds and traits research operation on Molokai since 2002 and employ approximately 110 people, all of them residents of Molokai. Mycogen Seeds firmly believe that regulatory oversight regarding GMOs and pesticide use should be the responsibility of the state of Hawaii and the federal government. And we humbly request to you to defer this proposed measure until the Maui County lawsuit regarding Bill 2491 is resolved in court. Mahalo.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Helm, for your testimony. Members, any questions for the testifier this morning? Having none, Mr. Helm, thank you very much for your comments. Molokai, your next testifier, please.
Our next testifier is David Gilliland.
Thank you.
Aloha, Chairman Hokama, Vice Chair Couch, and fellow committee members. Thank you for the opportunity to testify before you today. My name is Dave Gilliland, and I am the site leader for our Molokai facility, where currently we have over 110 employees coming through our gates daily. I have a background in plant genetics, and I've been working on improving crops for over 27 years in Africa, the mainland U.S., and from Molokai for the last 14 years. I say from Molokai as Dow AgroSciences' work here impacts farmers across South America, India, Africa, and the mainland U.S., as well as Canada. Dow AgroSciences strongly believes that the regulatory oversight of GMOs and pesticides is currently correctly positioned with the state of Hawaii and the federal government. We believe this to be so
by state laws, and I hear a lot of speculation in Hawaii, with chemical atrazine. Nobody knows, that creates birth defects, and I for one, spread pesticides, and we follow all the laws and state and federal laws, and we stay within our boundaries. That's all I got to say.
Okay, Mr. Escobar, thank you very much for your comments this morning. Members, any questions for Mr. Escobar? Having none, thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with the committee. We'll return to the chambers. I'll ask Irene Bowie if she would come and provide testimony. And after Ms. Bowie, Mayor Nakahata.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. Irene Bowie, Maui Tomorrow Foundation. Maui Tomorrow supports the proposed ordinance as peer-reviewed science continues to uncover the links between pesticide exposure and serious human health problems. Fetuses, young children, the elderly, and those with compromised immune systems are particularly vulnerable, and it is reasonable for county government to pass efforts to protect our community from possible harm. In particular, we support neighbor notification of field spraying in buffer zones. Advance notice allows the public to take precautions to avoid exposure, such as keeping children and pets inside, closing windows, and covering vegetable gardens and grills. Notification is a common sense measure that gives the public the right to know when and what they may be exposed to, and giving community members a means to protect themselves and loved ones from possible harm. We have residents of Maui County here today whose homes near large ag fields have been regularly exposed to harmful chemicals. They've contacted State Department of Ag and had their homes tested for pesticide exposure. These same people have received confirmation from Department of Ag that pesticides, including atrazine, have been found on their properties. Contrary to a recent Maui Chamber of Commerce column, current state regulations are not protecting citizens from possible exposure to restricted use pesticides. Neighbor notification in buffer zones would not be, quote, devastating to Maui County's ag industry. In a recent Maui News Viewpoint, the Farm Bureau's executive director asked what the scientific and medical evidence indicates. He should read the recent American Academy of Pediatrics study, which supports evidence that children are especially susceptible to the toxic effects of pesticide exposure. That abstract, published in 2012, states, children encounter pesticides daily and have unique susceptibilities to their potential toxicity. Acute poisoning risks are clear. An understanding of chronic health implications from both acute and chronic exposure are emerging. Epidemiologic evidence demonstrates associations between early life exposure to pesticides and pediatric cancers, decreased cognitive function, and behavioral problems. Recognizing and reducing problematic exposures will require attention to current inadequacies in medical training, public health, tracking, and regulatory action on pesticides. Maui Tomorrow supports this proposed bill, which gives the public the right to know, a right to choice, and modest protections. Large ag in Hawaii continues to operate under century-old methods. The community now demands that sustainable and safe 21st century farm practices that protect human health and the environment be implemented, and we ask you, council members, to take common sense measures to ensure this. Mahalo.
Thank you, Ms. Bowie. Members, questions for Ms. Bowie, please. Mr. Couch.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Ms. Bowie, for being here. Question for you. Do you have that in writing?
Yes, I submitted that.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Bowie on her testimony, members? Having none, thank you very much for your presence this morning. Mayor Nakahata, and then she will be followed by Marilyn Chapman.
Good morning, Honorable Chair and members of the Council. Sorry. My name is May Nakahata, and I'm the agronomist for Hawaiian Commercial and Sugar Company. HCNS opposes this measure very strongly, as we do see it as an anti-agriculture measure. The first speaker today spoke extensively about the old Maui that many of us knew. I moved here in 1984, and I was so proud to come to an island that had everything. You had a dairy, beef, poultry. You know, you remember the egg farm on Makawao? And we had everything. And over the last 20 years, I slowly saw these entities go away. And you know what? It made a splash one day in the newspaper. But then nobody objected. Everybody thought it was the changing of times. And that is not the Maui we want to see. And this is why we're saying this is an anti-ag measure. HCNS has been growing sugarcane since 1865. We've had various practices, and we've had our ups and downs. And some of our most severe downs were in the 2008 economic downturn. In 2009, A&B decided to designate 27,000 acres of our core lands into important agricultural lands. And what that means is the only way those lands can go out of agriculture is because you have the vote of the legislature, and we know that's not likely. Therefore, this measure for us is very serious. Over time, we have many employees, and our employees have friends, families surrounding our farms. We will not do things to hurt them. It is not a wise business decision, nor is it a good social practice. There were things said about the chemicals used and the lack of studies. Please go to the EPA website. There is an extensive section about all of the requirements done for pesticide registrations and what the requirements are, and these requirements evolve. What that means is when they did the last analysis, they required companies to continuously update their studies. We do not mind notification. However, if the notification will be used to file complaints that we constantly have to defend ourselves, that is where the problems happen. Same thing with buffers. We find that people dump things in these areas. And it does take out, in our estimate right now, over 1,000 acres of our lands. So farmers will continue to educate themselves to upgrade, but the community and those and policymakers also need to do the same. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Nakahata. Members, any questions for the testifier on her testimony? There be none. Thank you very much. Marilyn Chapman, please. And following Marilyn is Steve Wilson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Marilyn Chapman. I live in North Kihei and have owned my home there for 20 years. Upon first moving to Maui, I noticed all the fields directly behind my home and for as far as the eye can see. I made inquiries into what these fields were and why some had paper bags on them. What I was told, I have carried with me since these words were said to me. The fields are from Hawaiian Commercial and Sugar, DeKalb Genetics, and Maui Land and Pineapple. I was told that DeKalb Genetics fields were not for consumption but for research, so that people in places in our country and across the world that lived on land that could not be farmed for reasons such as drought, heat, radiation, and pests could once again grow food and feed their people. I immediately thought of Chernobyl in Africa. I'm here to tell you that both HCNS and Monsanto have been good neighbors. I have never had odors drifting to my home. I've never felt mist from their pesticides blowing into my yard. They even take many precautions to prevent dust and dirt from blowing into my neighborhood, which is nearly impossible. Reading through this proposed bill relating to pesticides and genetically modified organisms, I am left wondering what is actually going on here. I thought we were trying to diversify our economy to get us to a point where tourism isn't our only revenue stream. I thought we were promoting agriculture right along with other made-in-Maui products. Adding more duplicate regulations does not accomplish that purpose. Beyond agriculture, what about the use of pesticides on golf courses, our own yards, orchards, protea, orchid, and other tropical flower farms? The state and federal government already strictly regulate the use of pesticides. The County of Maui does not have the expertise or funds to oversee pesticides. Kauai requesting $555,000 from the state to implement their bill, while the state and county continually cut funding to many important programs, cannot afford to improve our aging educational facilities, and are again looking at raising taxes. In Hawaii, some growers raise a variety of papaya that was developed with the help of biotechnology after the papaya ring spot virus threatened to devastate the Hawaiian papaya industry. The small farmers feed their families and make small livings selling at farmers markets. They say they are already regulated by the state and federal government, and that this additional layer will close them down and put them out of business. Monsanto employs over 1,000 employees on 3 islands. These people are able to work year-round because of Hawaii's favorable climate. Do we need these people out of work? Don't the committees for the county council have other things of importance to concern themselves with? Respectfully, I always read how there is never enough time for the committees to hear testimony, vote, and move forward other items. Is this a worthwhile item to take up so much of your valuable time after the international scientific community, including the UK Royal Society, the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, the World Health Organization, the European Commission, and the American Medical Association have all examined the health and environmental safety of biotech crops and crop breeding methods, not to mention the fact that the Food and Drug Administration, Environmental Protection Agency, and the Department of Agriculture have found these crops and food and feed produced from them to be wholesome, nutritious, and as safe as conventional crops, food, and feed by scientific and regulatory authorities throughout the world. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Chapman. Members, any questions for Ms. Chapman? Having none, thank you very much. After Mr. Wilson comes forward and gives his testimony, members, we're going to take a morning break. And when we do return, we will start up with Molokai testimony.
Good morning,
Good
Chair,
morning.
Council members. My name is Steve Wilson. I've been an organic farmer on Maui for over 20 years. I'm a former board member of the Maui County Farm Bureau, served as a board member on the Hawaii Organic Farmers Association board until farmers were no longer allowed to serve. During my 20 years of making a living as an organic farmer, I've used less than 1 quart of approved pesticide, pyrethrum. I still have over half of it left, and have not used any in the past 14 years. I've used no pesticides, no herbicides, no fungicides on my farm. And with proper practices, there's no reason. Just because you may lose, 3 or 4% of your crop due to bugs or so forth, but with proper practices, maintaining a healthy soil and biosphere, the need for these things, you just don't need them. And I've been making my living for 20 years without them. As a farmer, I understand the challenge that we all face working with depleted soils and the economic challenge of making a living. But through proper stewardship of the land, the soil can be remediated. The pesticides, herbicides, and fungicides do not have to be used. The 3 most important things I believe government is responsible for is to protect the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the land we farm on. With the use of pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, all 3 of these things contaminate all 3 of those items. The county has a responsibility to protect the air, the land, and the water. This bill is a very small step to help in the curtailing of the use of harmful chemicals in the environment, and ultimately our health and our well-being. You may hear other farmers talk about how they're being curtailed and handcuffed by the passage of such a bill, yet these boundaries are not only needed but don't really go far enough in protecting our children and our children's children. It's not really so much about
2.5
me
minutes.
And where I'm at, but in small children, the accumulation of these pesticides, herbicides, fungicides affects their life in ways that the scientists are just now finding out about. And in conclusion, don't panic, just grow organic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any questions for the gentlemen, members? Mr. Wilson, thank you for being here this morning. We shall go into recess, and we shall return at 10:40.